How to stay cool when you meet Kevin Costner. Well, for H. Jack Williams, it wasn't difficult. I'm John Beaudin. This is Rock History Music. He's a singer, songwriter, been hanging around Nashville for a lot of years, a much sought out songwriter, playing folk, rock, and country music. And he's worked with some of the big names as well. Woodstock, great Richie Havens. He's worked with some of the guys from Leonard Skinner, the guys from The Who, Greg Allman, Uriah Heep, and a whole bunch more. Keep in mind, the entire interview with H. Jack Williams will be on our sister channel right now at Rock History Book. The links will be in the description of this video. And we'll also make it a podcast. The links will be there as well. Our first, though, is about, well, working with Kevin Costner. Here's H. Jack Williams. Again, being a radio guy, there's this thing that we need to do. When we go backstage with someone, we can't be a fan. When if we ever get invited to someone's place because somehow you reviewed something, or else, they like the way you interview them or whatever, or else they find a kinship with you somehow. It's rare, but it happens. We have to go there and we have to be cool. We can't be, oh, I remember that time. And, with Kevin Costner is a great example of that. Okay, how did you meet him, and did you have to constrain yourself and go, or is that stuff not, or you don't get starstruck by someone like that? What
I made back when I started out doing this, and I was just getting going. Richie, one of the things that Richie taught me, he said, "Well, you've got to figure out what you're a songwriter." You're an artist songwriter. What route are you going to take to try to get successful? Are you going to take the route of going after a big publishing deal and trying to be a staff writer? Are you going to take the route of blah, blah, blah? And I decided that after meeting Richie, after meeting Roger Daltrey, after meeting Ken Hensley, and finding that wasn't so hard. It took a little effort, of course. And it took some perseverance, but it still came pretty easy. And then I found myself in a very good comfort zone with these people. I figured out right then and there that my road was always going to be with the artist. So whenever I've decided I wanted to do something, well, I want to meet that guy, and I've gone after it. So with Kevin, I said to Kathy, my wife, about, whenever it was, 9 years ago, I said, I want to work with Kevin Costner. Okay. And so I started going after it, and those walls were big, and those red flags were big. I couldn't. And then finally, I happened to, something triggered, and I happened to notice that he had a band, and I didn't know that he had a band. And so then I looked up the band. And after I looked at the band, I saw that two of the band members lived here in Nashville, and they both had, on the website, they both had, where they worked and what studios they worked out of. And so I went eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and I picked one, and I introduced myself with my bio and said, I'd like to meet you. So we did. Then when he met me, he said, what do you really want? I said, I want to meet and work with Kevin. He said, okay. He said, but you'll have to work with us first, because Kevin doesn't do any outside material. Only does stuff that the band writes. Oh, fine. So the very first song that we wrote was the song called Heaven So Far Away, which is off of, I forget what's the name of the album he's off of, but it was a song, and we sent it to Kevin. Kevin went nuts. He really loved it, recorded it. And then flash forward to about 9 months later, Kevin did a little mini tour with his band, Knoxville, Fort Myers, a little place outside of Atlanta. And on the Knoxville date, which is about 3 hours from here, Teddy said he wanted to drive there. He wasn't going to ride the bus. He wanted to drive there and he wanted to get back home because his wife was pregnant with twins at that time. And he said, why don't you come with me? So I did. And that's where I met Kevin. And everybody was taking a nap, and I was walking around out in the parking lot talking to my wife on the phone. And his assistant came out and asked me, said, Kevin wants to talk to you. And that's when I met Kevin, and we just hit it off. And that's the way it's always been. It's always been it's been a great relationship, because we really have this great bond between the two of us. It's honest, and I've always been honest with him. When he was asked me a question about what I thought about something, whether or not I thought it was going to piss him off or not, I told him the truth. And he's always like that because he doesn't have a lot of people around him to do that, you know?
And it made, I thought of this 3 tracks in. I remember, I used to write in my journal and I'd write all this stuff. And I didn't understand my family till I went to someone else's house, because everyone, when they're young, thinks their family or their uncle or their whatever, the closed unit, is completely normal. At what point, consciously, when you were young, did you realize, whether it was I don't know, whatever it was, like I got the pissing on your grave thing in the lyric. But at what point did you know maybe my life's a little different than other people's?
Probably when my dad beat me up with a garden hose till I bled.
Yeah, that didn't happen to
I mean,
Johnny next door.
I lived in a trailer park in Miami. And those years that stuff was happening. And so that window right there, let's pretend my bedroom, I grew up in a 44-foot trailer. So my bedroom was half the size of my studio. So my bedroom was like from there to there, and there was a window right there. And that window faced Tommy Wolford's house. His bedroom window was right there. And then Mike Fox's bedroom window was out there, and his trailer was right there. And then there was somebody else's trailer. And so when my dad beat me, everybody could hear me screaming all over the trailer park. And I think, that's when when they would get together and they would want to, I mean, at one time they wanted to kill him, and I had to stop that. But that's when I realized that something wasn't right. But there was, when you're a kid, it's not like now. I can go, yeah, well, that wasn't right, but that back then you don't really look, you don't really go, this isn't right. You just take it. And then when you can't take it, you're gone.
When did you leave home? How old were you?
The first time, late 14. The first time I ran away from home was a late 14. And then I came back, they brought me back. And then 2 or 3 times when I was 15. And then one big time when I was 16. And that was it. Then I came home and I stayed home until I went in the Marines. I went in the Marines on my 17th birthday, thinking that would help. That would maybe change his attitude on me.
Mm-hmm. Better Off Dead. I love Ain't No Redemption for the Sinful Man. And there's that's a common theme in here of going, I've gone through this. Will I see the light? Will I learn the lesson? Will I get redemption? Will I go to heaven? There's those steps throughout the album. And it's anyway, tell me about that too.
Another one, Tommy Connors. Adam and I wrote that. Tommy and I wrote just the main part of it. And again, it was, I made a comment. I just made a comment about, we were talking about people like my dad, and no, I know what it was. It wasn't my dad. It was right at the time where are you from? Where are you at right now? Where do you live?
I'm in Moncton, New Brunswick, Eastern Canada. Okay. Right above Maine.
Well, a couple of years ago down here, we had a horrific murder of a little girl. It was on the news. It was on the world news. And anyway, the parents, the father had done it. And when they went to, it was just when they showed the court thing, we just happened to be here. And when we were talking about it, when they showed the court thing, the parents, the rest of the family were being held back from getting to him because he was on the stand. And I made a comment. I said, he's just better off dead, I mean, and then we just started talking about how some people are just better off dead. And that's where that song came from. I mean, some people are just better off dead.
Mm-hmm.
When they're that evil.
Yeah. I think many would agree with you. You know, when I hear something that speaks so honestly and it gets to me, it makes me feel like, oh yeah. Get Me Down. You open it up. I mean, the sequence of this album, by the way, is sequencing on this album. The songs are great. I mean, I love the way you end it, you know, that a tune that builds with the guitar solo in the middle. It was great. But Get Me Down. Again, what I wrote here is what I just told you a while ago. A powerful rocker. You know, I'm 61. I grew up with albums that every time I would listen to an album in the 70s, the first song was like just a kick-ass rocker, which this was. Tell me about that one.
That was probably that would have been the first song that we co-wrote on this record, because the very first song I wrote on this record was Running On. I wrote that by myself, and I started about mostly, but when we pulled in Heidi Newfield co-wrote that with Adam and I, and that's exactly what it's supposed to be. And it was supposed to be, we were going to at the where the little bridgy thing was, we were going to do this kind of demonic, or no, not demonic, that's the wrong word. Like what's the word? You know how the old preachers, whoa, and all that singing. We were going to do a little bit of that there, but then we changed our mind, and we were going to do this praise the Lord in sort of a old-fashioned way, but we decided we didn't want to do it. But it was just, you know, it was about trying to get some salvation, which is what I usually tend to lean to, trying to get that in some of my songs. But that was what that was for. But I love what Adam did. My producer, Adam Box, he's the one that came up with that little Beatlesque, you know, the beginning of it, the ooze, and that's what I loved. That was so cool. That was all him, you know.
Was the word charismatic you're looking for? Wasn't charismatic? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I've had experiences there too. If you want to see the entire interview with H. Jack Williams, who goes by Jack, there'll be links in the description of this video. His new album is called Halfway to Hell. There'll be links where you can pick it up as well. And remember, this will also be a podcast. There'll be a link to all our podcasts in the description of this video. Make sure you comment on our video, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. I'm John Beaudin. This is Rock History Music.